Hello and welcome to this, the latest in a series of videos that we're making on the subject of metal trunking. Now in previous videos we showed you how to connect pieces of trunking together using prefabricated bends that you'd be able to get from a manufacturer. But what are we going to do in this video, Jake?
So we're going to look at manufacturing a bend that will be really useful to you if you're still studying at college, and that's going to be the flat 90. Very
nice, okay. So it's a really important thing to be able to do because if you're studying at college or if you're a lecturer at college, this is part of the curriculum. So in a lot of cases, it'll be really helpful to know how to do this. And also if you're an electrician and you're on site, then perhaps you might find yourself caught in a pinch. It's Friday night, all the wholesalers are closed, and the last thing you need to do before you go home is make that flat angle 90. So this is going to be helpful for you as well. So what we're going to do, we'll bring the camera in really nice and close and we'll have a look at this process. Okay then, Jake, so this is the piece of trunking that we prepared in an earlier video where we looked at how to measure, mark and cut trunking accurately. And now we're going to turn this into our 90-degree bend. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this, but you're going to show us your preferred method here, Jake, which is great.
That's right, yeah. So this piece of trunking that we're working with is 700 millimeters long. We're going to have it so the back of our bend is at 350. So we're going to mark the centre, and when we're finished with this piece we should have a measurement of 350 either side.
Very good.
So the first step is to just mark out the centre at 350.
And again, we're in that situation. We've got 350, but you marked that at 35.
That's right, yeah. So 35 centimetres.
Very nice.
Whichever you prefer.
Then this here is to get that nice square line across the middle, yeah? So that's where the corner of the bend is going to be effectively.
Yep, so carry that all the way around.
Cool. So we've got that marked up on all four sides now, so we've got the same reference mark all the way around. It's really good. Okay. So we've got that centre part marked now, so where do we go from here?
So the next step is to mark from this point here at a 45-degree angle.
Okay, and we're on the back surface of the trunking here.
That's right, the back of the trunking, yeah.
Very good. And actually, once you start doing this, you can sort of start to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good.
So the next, where this line comes over onto the other underside, we're going to then continue that straight down.
Very nice. Really good. So just coming around this side. So on the back edge, on the back face, we've got the triangular section there coming 45 degrees off the centre mark, and then on the side there we've just carried that line on straight down so we can see clearly how that's been marked.
That's right, and just to confirm, that should be a measurement of 50 millimeters.
Very nice. I think the trunking's just over 50 mil, and I think it's like 52 mil.
Yeah.
So that looks good. Very good, so that 45-degree mark has worked beautifully.
So I'm just going to shade that bit in now, Joe, so we know that's the part that we're going to be cutting out.
Ah, that's a good idea, actually, yeah. It's easy to lose track in this process, isn't it? Yeah. So again, if we just shade that in, so that's the part that's going to get cut away.
Yeah, that's correct. Cool. So the next step is then to mark another 45-degree angle from this point.
Very good, so we've got that triangle on the back there.
Yeah.
Now this is an interesting method because the way I learnt this at college was very similar to this, but we'd cut away all of the bit that you're marking here, and then we'd have to go through the trauma of creating the fish plate and all that sort of stuff. And this is actually a slightly different method, which might prove to be a little bit more efficient, which I quite like.
Yeah, so that's done now. So now we've got the same measurement marked on the left side. We're not going to be cutting this section out. What we are going to be doing is cutting a single line just down this edge where the bend just finishes, where you can just probably see that.
Oh, right.
The light reflect off the edge of the corner there.
Okay, yeah. So we're just going to cut down there.
Yep, and then we'll also be doing a single cut here, and we'll just be filing that lip and snapping this lip off here.
One of my favourite processes when it comes to working with trunking. That lovely file off the corner and then just snap it really easily with a nice clean edge. I love that. Very good.
So I think we're ready to go there, Joe.
All right, let's do some cutting. Okay then, Jake, so you've added these little arrows onto these lines here, but they're not on others. So what do those arrows mean?
Yeah, so that's just to make it clear which lines we're going to be cutting. So we're going to cut down here. We're then going to cut along this line, down this centre line, all the way, so that piece can be removed. Excellent,
that's really good. So we're not going to concentrate loads in this video on cutting because we've shown you how to do that a couple of times in previous videos. So we're going to be using the same 24 TPI hacksaw that we did before. We'll drill a little hole in the corner there of the cut just to prevent the material getting fatigued and cracking when we bend it. But what we will do is then come back and have a look at taking off this little tiny piece of lip that we'll do a little bit later, and the cut down the edge of the trunk in there, because we've not done that before. That's a little bit different. Excellent, so we'll get the timber slid in, we'll get the block put in there and get it in the vise, and we'll start doing some cutting. Okay then, Jake, so we've made 3 cuts in this trunking already. We've done that off camera because, as we say, we've shown a lot of cutting trunking in this series already, but we thought we'd just show the last one to show how having that hole at the bottom there really benefits the cutting process and the bending process, and also just for the sake of completion. So do you want to do this final cut for us, mate? Beautifully done. There we go. And you see again, that hole gives you something to aim for, and it also means that the metal won't get fatigued and bent when we start to pull that out. So there we go. We've lost the bit there that we don't need, and again, the benefit of this method, Jake, we don't need to save that for making a fish plate, do we, like we did with the offset bend that we did. And again, if you haven't seen that video, please do go back and watch that, because that's quite a handy one for college and site work as well. Okay, Jake, so now we've got that triangular piece of metal that we've taken out there away, what we're going to do now?
Yeah, I'm just going to give it a file just to get rid of those sharp edges.
Very good. Okay, so on the inside and the outside, we'll get rid of them, yep. And that's really good. So you can see that serves 2 purposes. Number one, it keeps any cables that might pass across that piece of metal nice and free of burrs, so the cable won't snag on those and become damaged. And it's also good because it means it's not there to snag human fingers when we're working on the rest of this trunking. So Jake will finish filing that off camera now, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay then, Jake, so we've got that nice and neatly filed. So what's the next step here now?
Yeah, so we need to remove this lip now, so we're going to file along this corner and snap that off, as we've seen in a previous video. First, we're just going to make this small cut here.
Excellent. So Jake's made that nice little cut in the lip of the trunk in there, which is really good. And now we're about to start doing one of my favourite parts of working with metal trunking. I always find this process very satisfying. So what's the next bit, Jake?
Yeah, so we're now going to file this corner, and that'll snap off nice and neat.
Very good. And we're just going to use really nice pressure on the forward stroke, because of course that's how files are designed to work. They cut on the forward stroke, and if you apply pressure on the backward stroke, you tend to blunt the teeth there. So we'll see that demonstrated now, and we'll just do a couple of strokes to show you the principle, and then we'll finish the rest of this off camera. Okay then, Jake, so we've filed that down. So what's the principle that we're working with here? What's the purpose of filing that in that way?
Yeah, so we've filed that down quite nice and flat now, so we've thinned out that metal. So we're going to take some pliers and just use a back and forwards action. That should snap off nice and clean.
Okay, so demonstrate that for us, mate.
Bit like a dentist pulling teeth out.
Okay. Very nice, and that's left us with that nice, clean, accurate edge. That would be much better than if we tried to cut that. Nice work. Okay then, Jake, so we've taken that edge off nice and neatly using that filing technique, which was really good. But I noticed you've added a little triangle on this lip of the trunking now, so what purpose is that serving?
Yeah, so what we're going to need to do is cut a line down here. So in order to be able to get the hacksaw in, we're going to need to bend this down slightly. So in order to be able to do that, we just need to cut out this small triangle.
Of course. And then when we bend it into its final position, we'll need to remove that anyway, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So that goes together nice and neatly. Very good. Okay, so we've got that marked up again. We don't need to see that cut. We'll pop the little hole in there and then cut that away, and then we'll cut to the next bit. Okay then, Jake, so we're almost in a position where we can start thinking about bending this out of the way first of all to do a little cut, but we're just going to do a little extra move in here. So what's the problem? So the principle is we're going to cut along this section here down there.
That's right.
And then that frees this bit up to kind of become like an internal fixing joint. So the problem is that when we bend this up and then bend that round, what tends to happen with this bit when you try and bend that into there?
Yeah, it's quite awkward to get this flap flat against the inside of the trunking when it's bent into position.
Yeah, it sort of tends to bow up at the bottom bit of it, doesn't it? So we're going to try something here and hopefully this will be a good tip. What are we going to do along this line now?
Yeah, I'm just going to keep my hacksaw flat along that line, do a few strokes. I'm not going to cut into it much, I'm just going to score that line so it should bend.
Nice, so we'll just have a little, sort of dent along there that should facilitate that bending process, which will be good. Okay, so steady hands, Jake. So that's a nice neat groove along there that's just going to help that bending process and keep the inside of here really nice and neat. So what are we going to do, Jake? We're not going to bend this up straight away. What are we going to do with this end to start with?
Yeah, so just in order to be able to make this little cut down here, just going to slightly bend that down just enough so that I can get my hacksaw in.
Ah, nice, and you don't want to bend it too far because then we start weakening the metal, don't we? Very good.
So we've made our final cuts, we've got our flap here. That's going to bend on the inside and we're going to nut and bolt that. That's what's going to hold our trunking together. So we're ready to bend now. So we'll go ahead and bend this into position. So you can see how it's gonna look as we start to bend it. Now what I need to do is get some grips, get as close to that line, that groove that we created as possible, and pull that back into position to keep that flat against this side. So this is the awkward part.
So we've seen Jake put that bend together and then we've left him alone for 5 minutes and he's gone and produced this intriguing looking bit of kit here, Jake. So this is the patented Jake 90-degree mould. So what's this all about?
That's right, yeah, this will be going on Dragon's Den shortly. So I made this, this rig so we can see if our piece of trunking is 90 degrees. I made this using a piece of trunking that we created with a pre-manufactured bend. Nice. So this might be something you've got at college that you use, or this could be something you make that you keep in your van. You know, if you're in a situation where you haven't got anything you can use to check if your manufactured bend is 90 degrees, you could use something like this. We'll just slot that into place. That fits in there nicely.
By pushing in there, that makes that go to 90 degrees and it's just a question of confirming that. Nice, love it. There we go, so that's those two fixing holes drilled there, Jake. And what I like is that we can probably maybe get one of the nuts and bolts in place on that left-hand one. So it'll hold it nicely in position while we get the other one in. So that's good. Right, okay, we'll get that connected together. So having drilled those holes there, Jake, we're just getting the nut and bolt in there. We'll just get that on temporarily. Nice, so that's nice and tightly done. And we can take the block of wood out and get the other one and put in. Okay then, Jake, so we've assembled the corner piece and that's looking really good, but now of course we've got to get this lid on there as well. So we've got that on the bench. How are we going to mark this up in order to make this look nice and neat?
So as we did with the trunking, we're going to mark the centre, which is 350, as this piece is 700 millimetres long.
So that's the 350 mark again.
Yeah, so we'll then strike a line all the way down.
Very nice, and of course, because we're working in pencil here, that means that we can always rub this out once we've finished. Nothing worse than leaving the pencil marks on the trunking when it's installed.
So now we've got that line marked, we're going to do as we did with the trunking. And we're going to strike a line at 45 degrees.
Very nice. Very Good, and again, the principle that we're going to do here is we're going to kind of cut away a triangle again, are we?
That's right, yeah. So I'll do that on both sides.
So again, there's a couple of different ways of doing this. We sort of debated this off camera as well, didn't we? Which way we thought would be best, and this is what we landed on. So if you've got a strong opinion about a better way of doing this or an alternative way of doing this, then please, by all means, comment below. We're always keen to hear what people think about this kind of thing.
So what will happen now is I'll shade in one side, and that side will be removed.
That's the bit that's going to get cut away, yeah? And along that edge as well.
And then obviously that will be able to fold 90 degrees then, but we'll be left with a lip, which means the trunking lid won't sit correctly, so similar to what we did with the trunking, we'll just file that and get rid of that, yeah.
Very nice, okay. Right, we'll get that in the vise and get that cut. Okay then, Jake, so we've got this all marked up and ready to cut, so if you want to just demonstrate the cutting for us on this piece.
Yep, so we're going to cut this down this line first.
Very nice. Okay, so that's that first cut completed, and now we'll just do the cut across the way, and that will be this one complete. Very nice. And let's try and tuck that line there so we don't interbar that. So we've cut that triangle out, Jake, and as always you're filing in between shots because we don't need to see every single little bit of filing that we do. And we're now going to take this lip off the lid here. And what's the first little step to just getting rid of that?
That's right. So as we did with the trunking, we're going to just make a little cut down the lip here, so we can file that and it'll snap off nice and easy.
Very nice. Very good, so we've put that cut in there and now it's just a matter of filing that edge off, just like we did before. I absolutely love that. Still one of my favourite jobs in electrical installation is just taking the lip off the edge of a bit of trunking. Deeply satisfying. Okay then, Jake, so we've got that nice and neatly cut together there, so what's the next step now?
Yep, so we're ready to bend the lid now.
Very good, and of course we're bending it quite carefully because we've only got that thin piece of metal on the back there holding it in place. Sometimes a little twist up helps. There we go, and that's together. Now we had a bit of a debate earlier, didn't we, Jake? I mean, that looks fantastic now. That looks really good. Really good. We had a bit of a debate about whether to put a fixing through there. I'm not a fan. Nope. I think that looks absolutely quality as it is. Obviously, we'll rub those pencil marks off, but I reckon that now, once the lid goes onto the trunking, that'll be held in place, and that'll look quality, I reckon. So should we bring that other piece of trunking?
Let's do that now.
So here's the piece we prepared earlier. So that's good. We made that look really good. And now the lid goes on. Turnbuckles go up.
And there we are.
Here's a quality piece of trunking. Thanks very much for demonstrating that, Jake.
No problem.
So there we go. In this video, we've learned how to make that flat 90-degree bend, which may help you out if you're in a difficult situation at work and you don't have a prefabricated one, and it'd be super helpful for you if you're at college and you're assigned to make that bend from scratch. But rather than watching that video again, Jake, as a quick reminder, what have we also made?
Yeah, well, we've also made a short on this video, so if you just need a quick reminder to jog your memory, please take a look at that video.
Absolutely, and it's pretty cool. We quite like making that. But as always, we want to hear from you, the viewer. So no doubt you've got some thoughts about the method that we used to do this. This was a method that I've not used before. I prefer doing it a slightly different way, but having seen the expert way that Jake put that together, I think I might be converted. So if you've got any thoughts or any questions on this subject or this particular mode of fabrication, then please leave all of those in the comment section below, and we guarantee that Jake will get back to every single one of those, no matter how long it takes him. But as always, all that remains in this video is to say,
thank you very much for watching.
That's it, we're not doing this anymore, we're done.